you.
Okay folks, welcome back. This is your old pal Hondo doing a quick video on old versus new Zebco 202s. First one you have right here is the 202 from 1989. You got a 202 from 2022. These are the two that I have as an example. 202s that you can get pretty much at a flea market and any big box store. Now, first off, we have the rods. We'll get them out of the way. Both of them are composite fiberglass rods. The older version, this is the 202 combo from 1980s, mid 80s, which is 1989 reel, and then probably mid 80s 202 rod from that era, which is a fiberglass 5-foot rod, 5.5-foot rod, and has ceramic and steel eye guides threaded. You have the same thing with this one, except this one is a 5'6" rod. It's a little bit bigger with ceramic and steel eye guides all the way to the tip. We've got the rods out of the way. They're fiberglass, but this rod here has a pistol grip, a PVC pistol grip, and this one here has an Evo overlaid handle on that one. Got the rods out of the way. Now we'll do the good, bad, and the ugly on these reels, and what I like about the modern reel, and I'll tell you what I like about the older 202, and I'll tell you what I dislike on the newer 202 compared to the older 202, and break it down for you, and why you should buy either one of these in a modern fishing scenario for either a kid or an avid fisherman, or you just want a good cheap rod to go out and catch crappie and bass with. These are your go-to rods to do that if you don't want to spend $300 at Bass Pro Shop and you want to get yourself something cheap and reliable. These might come in handy for you. Now, we're going to break down the first one here and the second one. Now, the first older reel is a 1989 202, which was my very first 202 I ever had. And this 202 had 0 ball bearings, which was cast metal gears, which is aluminum gears. Both of them have aluminum gears, cast metal aluminum gears. This one here is a lot easier to maintenance than that one is. It's just a few parts that you have to take apart, and you can literally take the whole reel apart to clean it. Easier to maintenance. The drag on this one is not as good as the newer one. The newer one has an SLD drag and one pickup pin, and this one here has these jagged teeth on the end of the spinner cone on the inside where it picks up the line, which does a lot more damage to your line than this one does. The newer 202 does not do as much damage to your line as the older ones do because of the jagged teeth, and the jagged teeth on them revolving around the line until it picks up the line, and then it does the damage to the line. You have to retie more often than not than this one. This one casts a lot better than this one, but is almost impossible to maintenance. From a maintenancing standpoint, this one sucks, but this one gets high marks over that. Now, this one with the SLD drag, the drag's a lot smoother, but I find the drag system on this one occasionally will slip off, and it doesn't stay tight when you tighten it, and sometimes you got it on a looser setting for bigger fish. It will loosen up to the point where if you set the hook on a fish, it'll literally, the line will slip out, and you're going to lose a fish because of the drag always loosening up when you don't want it to loosen it up because you're putting it in your hand. I don't have that problem with this one. This one here has a better, I think the drag system locks a lot better in this one. Now this one has like a little wire drag that goes over this like jagged bottom of the spool, which is the drag on this, and I find that highly annoying over the interlock disc drag that's in the newer slingshot reels. These are both medium light reels. What that means is it's like in between heavy fishing and pan fishing, and I find that the 10-pound test that comes on these reels is not as good as, say, 6 and 8 pound test. I see a lot of jokers putting 14, 12, 13-pound tests on these reels. You really don't want to do that because the heavier the line you got on there, the worse it casts. So I find that my sweet spot with fishing line with these two reels is 8-pound test, not the 10-pound test that it comes with. So other than that, 6 and 8 and 10 is where you want to be with these. But 8's like the perfect, like, middle of the road line for these reels, and 8 casts a hell of a lot better than 10, and 6 casts just as good than the 8 for lighter lures like inline spinners, worms, bait, basically any type of ultralight type of setup you're going to be casting. Medium light, both of them. But long-term sustainability, I think the older reel is going to last you a lot longer than the newer reel, because the spinner cone on this one here is made out of inferior steel, and the spinner cone on this one is a grooved spinner cone over a pickup pin spinner cone. And this grooved one's going to last a lot longer, and this reel is going to last you a lot longer than this reel over long-term use and durability. Which I'm going to say this straight up: the older reels are going to be a lot better than the newer reels for longevity. And the only Achilles heel on these older reels would be the plastic foot that'll eventually give out, and I hadn't had that problem with this one yet, nor have I had that problem with any of my reels quite yet with the foot going out. So they're basically rock solid. Both of them are rock solid reels, but I've had splashes in older 202s like this one here. On the newer generation of the import reels, the spinner cones always get line damage, and then you have to replace the spinner cones within like 2 or 3 years of use. Over this one here, where the spinner cone is grooved, and I've never had to replace the spinner cone on these older ones. So I like the older ones for long-term sustainability and ease of maintenance. This one, not so much of long-term sustainability and ease of maintenance. You're going to get a lot more use and longevity out of this rod and easy to maintenance over this rod and reel setup, being with the modern material that they use in it. It's virtually the same. Some of it is on paper, but the interlocking drag system I love is on this one is way better than this drag system. The spinner cone's a lot better on this one than it is on this one. I think the drag, the rod on this one's done a lot better than the old school rod, but I think the old school rod, as old as it is, has lasted 30 years longer than this one. So I give it to the rod in long-term sustainability over the older Zebco 202. I give speed over this one because this one's like 2 8-to-1 gear ratio, where this one's just like 2 gear ratio, 2 0-to-1 gear ratio. So you're going to get a lot more speed out of this reel, and it's going to pull in line faster than this reel overall. I like the handle crank on this one is like oversized. This one's kind of skinny, and the handle crank's done better on that reel than the older reel is. This one's going to be a lot easier on your fishing line than this reel over long-term sustainability. The line on this one, you're going to be able to suck the line in. The newer reels without doing too much damage to it. You're going to do more damage with this one, trying to reel the line up in it. And it just mangles the line up. It turns it into like a wadded mess. This one, when it reels the line in and casts it back out, it reels it in gently and casts it out non-aggressively, and it doesn't mangle your line all up and knot it up and stuff like that. This reel does that worse than that reel does. But overall, I think the older reels are going to be your best bet over the newer reels for long-term sustainability, maintenance, and just overall durability over the newer reels. The newer reels, you're going to have to replace stuff on it as soon as you 3 or 4 years worth of use. You're going to have to replace the spinner cone on that. And this rod here is a pistol grip over the solid Evo frame grip. This is a PVC pistol grip, but basically these are the type of rods that came on the older reels anyways. Well, folks, I hope you like this comparison, and just my few thoughts on old school versus new school Zebco 202s. These are perfectly fine for any kid or any adult that doesn't know how to fish very well, or just if you're like me, you're an avid fisherman and you need a small rod that you can break into and put it in your kayak, and you don't want to bring a bait caster with you and have to pull out bird's nests constantly, and you want a good little panfish reel without breaking the bank. These 202s are great. I recommend both of them, but if you can find an old school one, or your granddaddy has one of these old school ones laying around, I recommend you to use and fix up these old ones and clean them up and use these over the newer ones, because these will last you a hell of a lot longer than the newer ones. But the newer ones have their place as well. I've seen people catching huge fish on these newer ones at on Zebco forums, catching huge catfish and huge snook, redfish, all kinds of huge fish on these 202s. These newer 202s, they get it done. They're great fishing reels. They will not fail you. Neither of them will. But I think the older ones are better than the newer ones. That's just my thoughts on it, on this 202 versus 202 video. If y'all like this video, please hit the like, share, and subscribe on this video, and tell me what you think of it. This has been your old pal Hondo from Hillbilly Tactical. Peace out, YouTube.
Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?